In the quiet town of Dalemore, the post office rarely handled anything out of the ordinary. People came in, sent their parcels, collected their mail, and went about their day. But on a rainy Tuesday morning, something strange arrived: 5 medium-sized boxes, all addressed to different names, none of which appeared in the town's records. Each box carried a neat white label with a typed address, a fake-looking sender name, and no return number. The delivery driver, thinking it was just another shipment, stacked them in the holding area and left without a second thought. That was the start of it. By the end of the week, 3 of the boxes had been claimed. Or rather, taken. No one saw who collected them. The clerk on duty said a man with a hood had come in during lunch hour, signed for all 3, and left without saying a word. When asked to describe him, she hesitated. "I don't remember his face," she said, "but I remember his voice. Calm, like someone who knew exactly what he was doing." The remaining 2 boxes sat untouched in the corner. Days turned into weeks. Then, one evening, a faint chemical smell began to leak from one of them. The janitor, thinking it was spoiled food, reported it to the police. When they opened the box, what they found was enough to freeze everyone in the room. Inside were medical tools, gloves, and a thick plastic bag. And inside that bag, human remains, meticulously wrapped and labeled with a code, package 04B. The discovery triggered an immediate investigation. The police sealed off the area and sent the box for forensic analysis. Soon, detectives learned about the other 4 boxes, the ones that had already vanished. That's when the realization hit them: this wasn't a single crime. It was part of something larger, something methodical. Detective Rowan Hale was assigned to lead the case. A quiet man with a reputation for noticing details others missed, he stood in the post office that night, staring at the empty shelves where the missing boxes once sat. He turned to the clerk and asked only one question: did he say anything before he left? She shook her head slowly. "Just one thing," she replied. He said, "Delivery complete." Rowan frowned. "Delivery complete," he repeated under his breath. He didn't know it yet, but those 2 words were just the beginning, the first thread in a web that would soon pull the entire town into darkness. 3 boxes were still out there, moving from hand to hand, and no one knew what was inside them. Detective Rowan Hale started with what little he had: a shipping manifest, a partial signature, and a faint trace of the chemical odor that lingered inside the post office storage room. The lab results confirmed what everyone feared: the remains in the box were human, preserved in a mixture of industrial-grade solvents. Whoever packed it knew exactly how to hide evidence, but not forever. The first clue came from the cardboard itself. Forensic technicians found a partial print, not from fingers but from a rubber stamp, a pattern used by only one regional courier service that had shut down 2 years earlier. Rowan traced the code and discovered it was part of an old warehouse in Eastbridge, 30 miles away. When he arrived, the building looked abandoned. Weeds climbed the walls, windows were broken, and a "For Lease" sign hung crookedly by the main gate. But inside, the dust told a different story. Recent footprints. A faint trail of tire marks. And on the far table, a torn shipping label identical to the one found on the deadly package. Someone had been there recently. Rowan searched through piles of discarded envelopes and found fragments of paper with printed serial numbers: 5C, 3A, 2E. He realized they matched the missing boxes. 5 in total. 1 found. 4 gone. And each coded differently. Back at headquarters, Rowan built a timeline. Every package had been sent to a small town within a 50-mile radius. Each town had a post office, a pattern, and a single unknown recipient. It wasn't random, it was planned distribution. But for what purpose? He interviewed the post office clerk again. She remembered something else: the man who picked up the boxes had a faint mark on his hand. Not a tattoo. More like a burn scar, shaped like a triangle. Rowan checked regional hospital records. No recent burn cases matched. But an archived record from 3 years ago mentioned a lab technician injured in an explosion at a private research facility. The technician's name, Elias Ward. The name didn't appear anywhere else in the system. No address. No employer. Just a note, discharged. Psychological evaluation pending. That night, Rowan stared at the crime board in his office. 5 boxes. 5 towns. One name, and a question that kept him awake: was Elias sending pieces of something bigger, or was he covering up something already done? At dawn, another package arrived, but this time, it was addressed directly to Detective Rowan Hale. The package arrived just before sunrise. A plain brown box, the same size and weight as the others. No return address. No sender. Only one line typed neatly in black ink: Detective Rowan Hale, for your eyes only. The delivery officer said it was left at the station door during the night. No cameras caught the drop. No witnesses. Just a silent delivery, as if the sender knew exactly how to slip past every layer of security. Rowan stood over the box for a long time before touching it. There was something unnerving about seeing his own name printed in that cold, mechanical font. He ordered the bomb squad to scan it, but there were no explosives, only organic material. With gloves on, he lifted the lid. Inside was a single manila folder, a photograph, and a small glass vial filled with a pale, yellowish liquid. The photo stopped him cold. It was of his younger sister, Clara Hale, taken 2 years ago, the same week she disappeared. Rowan froze. The air in the room thickened. Clara's case had gone cold after months of searching. No leads. No suspects. And now, her face was staring up at him from inside a box linked to a serial crime scene. He opened the folder with trembling hands. Inside were printed notes, lab reports, tissue samples, and coded pages signed with the initials EW. The same initials as Elias Ward. At the bottom of the folder was a handwritten message in neat, deliberate strokes: you looked for her in the wrong place. She's closer than you think. Rowan's pulse hammered. He checked the vial again. The chemical tag on the side matched the substance found in the first package. It was the same preservation compound used on human tissue. He called for immediate lab analysis. The results confirmed his worst fear. The DNA traces in the vial matched his sister. Rowan sank into his chair, the room spinning around him. The silence was unbearable. Whoever sent this knew him, his history, his loss, his weakness. This wasn't a random crime anymore. It was personal. As he stared at the label on the box, something else caught his eye: a faint triangular smudge, burned into the cardboard. The same mark the witness had described on the suspect's hand. Rowan whispered to himself, barely audible: Elias Ward, why me? Before he could process it further, his phone buzzed. A message appeared from an unknown number. It read, Box 4B was only a warning. Box 5C is already moving. Somewhere out there, the next package was already on its way, and this time, it wasn't meant to be found. Detective Rowan Hale didn't sleep that night. The message, Box 5C is already moving, looped through his head like a ticking clock. He stared at the evidence board covered in string and photographs. 5 boxes, 1 sender, 1 scar, and now, his sister. He poured another cup of black coffee, his hands shaking. Every instinct screamed that this was bigger than Elias Ward. The precision, the planning, the psychological pressure, it felt like an operation, not a lone madman's work. Rowan went back to the file Elias had left him. One of the coded pages contained GPS coordinates hidden in the margins of a lab report. When decrypted, they pointed to a remote service road near the old industrial district. It was a place no one went anymore. Factories abandoned, power lines dead. By dawn, he was there. The air was heavy with rust and silence. He followed the coordinates to a warehouse door chained shut from the outside. It looked untouched for years, but fresh tire marks told a different story. Inside, the smell hit first. Chemicals. Metal. Decay. Rows of steel tables lined the floor. On each table, numbered containers, empty, but recently used. And at the far end, a terminal still humming faintly with power. Rowan turned it on. The screen flickered, revealing folders labeled with shipment codes, 1A, 2E, 3A, 4B, 05C. Only the last one was marked, in transit. He clicked it open. A list appeared, 5 names. All different. All with one thing in common: every person had disappeared in the past 3 years, officially listed as missing, presumed dead. At the bottom of the file was another entry: recipient, Project Meridian. Rowan leaned closer. Project Meridian, he whispered. Before he could read further, the screen went black. A remote shutdown command appeared: unauthorized access detected. Then, the faint sound of a car engine echoed outside. He rushed to the window, too late. A black van sped away, its headlights cutting through the mist that he chased it on foot, but the van disappeared into the fog, leaving only a trail of exhaust and tire prints in the mud. When he returned to the terminal, the hard drive was gone. Whoever had been watching knew he was there. Back at the station, he connected the dots. Elias Ward might have been part of something called Project Meridian, a secret network using human remains for experimental research. But if that was true, then the boxes weren't trophies. They were deliveries, and someone, somewhere, was waiting for the final shipment. Hours later, a new message arrived on Rowan's phone, this time with a live feed link and a single line of text: "Watch carefully, detective. Box 5C has been delivered." Rowan stared at the message on his phone, the glow reflecting in his tired eyes. The live feed link burned like a warning in his mind. With a trembling hand, he tapped it. The screen went black for a moment, then flickered to life. Grainy footage filled the display: an empty room, stark and cold. Metal walls reflected the harsh light, and in the center sat a single steel crate, marked 05C. Rowan's heart raced. That was the crate, his sister's crate. Then, a figure stepped into frame. Tall, shadowed, and impossibly calm. They wore a hood, but the voice was unmistakable. "Elias Ward, Detective Hale," he said, each word deliberate, almost theatrical. "You've been very busy." Rowan's fingers tightened around the phone. "Where is she?" he demanded. Elias smiled behind the shadow of the hood. "She's safe, for now. But every second you delay, every wrong move, she becomes another number in the sequence. Do you understand? Numbers are precious. Time, even more so." The camera zoomed in on the crate. A small panel blinked, and a timer began counting down. 30 minutes. Rowan's mind spun. He had to act fast. He couldn't rely on the police, they didn't know half of what he knew. And if this was truly connected to Project Meridian, then every second counted. He checked the file on his tablet again. Coordinates, shipment logs, names, all patterns emerging, like a map only he could read. And then it clicked: the crates weren't being moved randomly. They followed a network, a hidden path that bypassed city sensors, police patrols, even the most advanced tracking systems. Rowan ran the calculations, heart hammering. He found the final delivery point, a decommissioned subway station under the city, sealed off for decades. And according to the logs, Box 5C was already en route there. Without hesitation, he grabbed his jacket, racing into the rain-soaked streets. Every passing second dragged like an eternity. The city was a blur of lights, puddles, and echoes, but Rowan didn't care. He only had one goal: stop the shipment, save her, and survive whatever lay at the end of that path. As he neared the abandoned station, his phone vibrated again. Another message. No words this time, just an image. It was a photograph of his sister, inside the crate, eyes wide with fear, hands pressed against the metal bars. And scribbled across the bottom in red: "The clock is ticking, detective. Choose wisely." Rowan's stomach twisted. The weight of failure pressed down, but he clenched his fists. He had to get there before it was too late. Every move, every decision, now carried the weight of life and death. Then, a sudden noise behind him, a metallic scrape, low and deliberate. Rowan spun around. The shadows shifted. And a whisper cut through the air: "You shouldn't have come alone." The metallic scrape behind Rowan echoed through the empty alley. Rain slid off the edges of his jacket, slicking the pavement, but he barely noticed. His eyes darted to the shadows, nothing, yet everything felt alive. He gritted his teeth, forcing himself to keep moving. The subway entrance loomed ahead, a yawning dark mouth swallowing the city's neon glow. The stairs were slick, worn by decades of neglect. Every step down felt heavier than the last, like gravity itself was testing him. Rowan's mind replayed the image on his phone. Her face, pressed against cold steel, staring back at him with a silent plea. His chest tightened. He couldn't fail her. Not now. Not ever. The station below was almost entirely collapsed. Chunks of concrete and rusted beams littered the tracks. A single dim light flickered in the distance, the only beacon in an ocean of shadows. And somewhere beyond that light, the crate. He crept forward, careful to make no sound. Every creak of the floorboards echoed like a gunshot in his ears. The air was thick with dust and decay, but also, a strange metallic tang, faint but unmistakable. Rowan knew it. It was the same chemical signature from Project Meridian. Then he heard it, a low humming, mechanical and persistent, coming from the far end of the station. He froze. That sound, like a heartbeat, slow and deliberate, was not natural. His pulse raced in tandem. Rowan crouched behind a fallen pillar, surveying the scene. In the distance, shadowed figures moved with precision, guards. Automatons. It was hard to tell in the dim light. But one thing was clear, the crate was surrounded, and time was slipping away. He checked his gear. A flashlight. A handgun. A single clip. Not much, but it had to be enough. He took a deep breath, forcing his fear down, converting it into focus. As he approached the crate, the humming intensified. And then he saw it, the panel on the crate blinked again, red digits counting down faster. 21 minutes. 20. Rowan's hands shook as he reached for the lock. His mind screamed warnings. What if it was a trap? What if Elias had anticipated this exact move? But hesitation was a luxury he didn't have. Suddenly, a sharp metallic clang echoed from behind. Rowan spun. The shadows coalesced into a figure, tall, imposing, and moving with deliberate, inhuman precision. It was Elias. And in his hand, a device, small, almost insignificant, but clearly dangerous. Rowan swallowed hard, heart hammering. Every instinct screamed at him to run, yet he knew he couldn't. Not now. Not after coming this far. Elias smiled, voice calm, chilling. Do you really think you can stop this, detective? The descent has only just begun. Rowan's mind raced, every nerve screaming danger. Elias's calm demeanor made the hairs on the back of his neck rise. The dim light of the flickering station caught the edges of the device in his hand, revealing blinking red circuits, unstable, lethal. Rowan knew he had seconds, maybe less. You don't understand, Rowan said, keeping his voice steady. This isn't just a game. People will die if you activate it. Elias chuckled softly, stepping closer. The shadows of the ruined station seemed to cling to him, almost protective. Death is a side effect, detective. Evolution is the goal. You've always been too sentimental. Rowan gritted his teeth, feeling the weight of every step he had taken to get here. Every wrong turn, every narrow escape, all led to this. He had to act, and fast. The countdown on the crate continued, 19 minutes. 19 minutes to stop a disaster that could erase everything. Rowan's hand brushed against his gun. His fingers trembled, but not from fear. From the sheer pressure of the moment, Elias raised the device slowly, like savoring the drama. Do you want to see her one last time? He asked, a smirk twisting his lips. Rowan's stomach dropped. He couldn't give him the satisfaction of panic. Not yet. Steeling himself, Rowan shifted slightly, trying to calculate the odds. The pillars, the debris, the shadows, every detail could be used to his advantage. He needed a distraction, anything to split Elias's focus. He kicked a loose piece of metal across the floor. It clanged loudly, echoing through the hollow station. Elias flinched, just slightly, but enough. Rowan lunged forward, gun aimed at the device. A sharp crack. Sparks flew. The device skittered across the floor. Elias's eyes widened in surprise, the first real sign of vulnerability. Rowan didn't hesitate. He grabbed the crate, dragging it away from the edge of the platform, but Elias recovered instantly, moving with a speed that seemed unnatural. The two collided, struggling over control of the crate. The countdown sped up, 17 minutes. Rowan's mind flashed with memories, her smile, the promise he had made, the countless nights he had trained for this moment. He couldn't fail. He wouldn't. With a surge of strength, he shoved Elias back just as the crate tipped. It landed with a deafening crash, and the device skidded away harmlessly. Elias glared, breathing hard, eyes burning with fury. Rowan stood, chest heaving, staring back. For the first time, he sensed that the balance had shifted. Elias whispered, voice low, almost a hiss, "You may have survived this moment, but the storm is coming, detective. And you won't see it coming until it's too late." The dust settled. Smoke curled from the broken device, vanishing into the shadows of the ruined station. Rowan's chest heaved as he stared at the remnants, feeling the adrenaline slowly drain. For a moment, he allowed himself a breath, a flicker of relief. He had stopped Elias, for now, but the station was silent in a way that felt wrong. Too quiet. Every instinct screamed that the danger wasn't over, that Elias's threat was only the beginning. Rowan scanned the wreckage, noting every shadow, every corner where someone, or something, could be hiding. Then he heard it, a faint click, almost like a whisper. He froze, heart pounding. His hand went instinctively to his gun, but there was nothing, just the eerie stillness and the echo of his own ragged breathing. Rowan's mind replayed Elias's words, "The storm is coming, detective." He didn't fully understand what Elias meant, but the warning felt real, imminent. The kind that seeps under your skin and never leaves. Rowan knew he had to find answers before it was too late. He moved cautiously, checking every corridor, every darkened room. The station, once bustling and alive, now seemed like a tomb. Broken screens flickered with static, shadows danced on cracked walls. Each step was deliberate, each breath measured. He couldn't afford mistakes, not now. Then he found the note. Crumpled, smeared with dark stains, placed neatly on a console as if mocking him. He picked it up with trembling hands. The words were written in a neat, cruel handwriting, "You may have won the battle, but the war is mine. Watch closely. Everything you love is a target." A chill ran down Rowan's spine. His thoughts raced to her, to the people he had vowed to protect. Elias's reach, his cunning, was far from over. Rowan realized that this was only the first act of a much larger, darker plan. Outside, the wind howled through the crumbling station, carrying with it a sense of inevitability. Rowan's resolve hardened. He couldn't run. He couldn't hide. He had to face what was coming, no matter the cost. As he stepped into the night, Rowan felt eyes on him, unseen, watching, calculating. He couldn't tell if it was Elias or something far worse. The shadows seemed to move with purpose, whispering threats that weren't entirely human. Rowan's voice was low, determined, "I'll find you. No matter what it takes." And somewhere in the darkness, a faint, distorted laugh echoed, familiar, chilling, and filled with promise. "The game has only just begun, detective, and you're already losing."